My side mirror reflected a different stretch of highway than the one beside me. At first, I thought it was a trick of the fog. The road had been empty for miles, a ribbon of asphalt swallowed in darkness. The hum of my tires on wet pavement was the only sound besides the occasional groan of the suspension. Headlights cut through the mist, short beams that barely reached the curve ahead. But the mirror was wrong. In its glass, the highway seemed older, cracked and pitted, with faded lane markings that didn't match the clean, black surface beneath my wheels. Rusted guardrails leaned inward like they were collapsing into the night. The trees on that side were gnarled and bare, shadows stretching longer than any normal silhouette. A flicker of something metallic, like a sign, gleamed in the reflection, but when I glanced at the actual road, it was gone. I shook my head. Sleep, fatigue. It had to be that. I'd been driving since dusk, the hum of the engine and the monotony of the road lulling me into a trance. Yet the mirror refused to obey. Every few seconds, it flickered, the reflection pulsing like a film reel skipping frames. Once, a car appeared, its headlights dim and yellow, sputtering across the cracked asphalt. But when I looked over my shoulder, nothing was there. The fog thickened, curling around the tires like slow, spectral fingers. I slowed, the squeak of brakes against wet asphalt echoing too loudly in the emptiness. The reflected highway warped further. A sign reading "Welcome to Oakhurst" appeared reversed, peeling paint twisting into letters that seemed to leer at me. In reality, the highway had never passed through Oakhurst. I hadn't been anywhere near it in years. I tried to ignore it, rationalize it. The mirror might be old, or the condensation refracting the light strangely. But the longer I stared, the harder it was to look away. The reflected highway had a rhythm, a cadence of its own. Sometimes it lagged behind me. My turn was reflected a second too late, or it raced ahead, showing bends I hadn't reached yet. Occasionally, a figure flitted across the lanes in the glass. A man in a trench coat, a child holding a lantern, silhouettes that vanished when I blinked. Then I noticed the trees. They weren't just bare, they moved. Not with the wind, which was still, but as if the forest itself were breathing, leaning toward the highway in the mirror. Shadows stretched impossibly long, converging on the road like dark ink. My knuckles whitened on the wheel. I remembered something from the last mile back, a feeling like the road itself had changed beneath me. A patch of asphalt shimmered, briefly reflecting headlights that weren't mine, before snapping back to normal. I rubbed my eyes. When I looked again, the mirror showed a junction, one I didn't recognize, but the signpost was half buried in dirt and moss. I could almost hear the asphalt whispering beneath my tires, as though it were alive, reminding me that the reflected highway existed, quietly, just beside reality. I slowed to a crawl, peering into the side mirror as if studying a living thing. The figure appeared again, a man standing in the middle of the mirrored road, motionless. His face was obscured, but he seemed to watch me with the same intensity one felt from the reflection. My heart skipped. He raised a hand slowly, deliberately. I hesitated, then shook my head. He didn't exist. Not outside the mirror. The thought struck me then, what if the mirror wasn't just showing a distorted reflection? What if it was a doorway, a parallel route, running alongside this one, only visible from the glass? My pulse throbbed in my temples. Every instinct screamed to turn around, but my headlights cut through nothing but fog. I was alone, except for the reflection. Then, a subtle movement. My own car in the mirror but older, rusted edges where there were none, headlights dimmer. And there, beside me in the passenger seat, someone or something sat. A shape hunched low, impossibly still. I blinked. My real road remained empty, silent, ordinary. I gripped the wheel tighter. My reflection in the mirror smiled. Not me. Not my tired, tense face, but a version of me with hollow eyes and a grin that stretched too wide, too knowing. My reflection's hand reached toward the driver's side, brushing against the glass as though it could cross over. A flicker of panic hit. I swerved. The tires squealed, and the road roared beneath me. My mirror rippled like water. The parallel highway surged closer, mirroring my movements with a heartbeat's delay. I could see the figure in the passenger seat leaning forward, almost touching me, and the grin widened impossibly sharp. I forced myself to look away, heart hammering. The mirror was just a mirror, just a reflection. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. A flash of taillights behind me in the reflected highway, racing, keeping pace, though the road behind me was empty. I could see the driver's profile, twisted into a grin that matched mine, or the reflection of mine. I hit the gas, trying to outrun it, but the hum of the tires felt wrong. Every rotation echoed in two rhythms. One beneath me, one in the mirror, slightly offset, slightly faster. I wasn't just driving. I was being followed by a version of myself I couldn't escape. The fog grew denser, cold moisture dripping down my neck. I could barely see the edges of the lane, yet the mirror remained unnaturally clear. And then I noticed it. The reflected highway was merging with mine. Where my road curved, the mirror's road straightened, and the distance between the two seemed to collapse with every second. I slammed on the brakes, heart hammering in my throat. My reflection mirrored the panic, but with a calm, deliberate patience, as if it had been waiting for this moment. My eyes widened in disbelief. The passenger seat in the reflection moved closer. The figure's face came into view. My face, older, hollow, smiling. The highway I knew ended abruptly in a pool of fog and shadows in the mirror, and I realized the truth with a sick, twisting certainty. It didn't want me to leave. It wanted me to join. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came. The hum of tires slowed, stretching into a low, resonant vibration that seemed to echo from both sides of the glass. My reflection leaned forward, hand pressed against the inside of the mirror. I could see the faint outline of my own trembling fingers on the opposite side. And then it blinked. A moment later, I saw myself, not in the mirror, but on the highway I was meant to follow. Alone, eyes wide with horror, staring back at the mirror from the driver's seat of a different car. I realized, as the fog swallowed everything around me, that I was no longer in control, that I had already crossed the threshold. The tires lost their hum. The headlights dimmed. The highway ahead became indistinct. The last thing I saw before the fog consumed the world was my reflection smiling back at me. My own face, yes, but no longer mine. A convoy of cars passed me, each with the same license plate as mine. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. The highway was empty when I joined it, a ribbon of asphalt disappearing into dense fog. My headlights cut weakly through the mist, reflecting off slick patches that made the tires hum a low, hypnotic note. Engine vibration thrummed through my hands on the wheel, a subtle lullaby I tried to ignore. Then the first car appeared behind me, a familiar roar, a headlight beam suddenly splitting the darkness, and my stomach tightened. Its license plate glinted in the dim light, catching the occasional beam from my own headlights. C42 TRQ. Mine. Identical in every detail. I blinked. A trick of the mist, maybe, or a reflection off wet asphalt. But as the car passed, I caught the curve of the fender, a tiny scratch above the rear wheel, my scratch. And inside, a silhouette hunched over the steering wheel, the same shape, same posture as me. My pulse quickened. The second car emerged, far behind the first. Same make, same model, same license plate. My eyes widened in disbelief as I realized the interior clutter was identical. The crumpled map on the passenger seat, the coffee mug wedged in the cup holder, even the air freshener swinging lightly from the rearview mirror. The fog thickened, curling around my tires like pale smoke. Headlights flickered, and the engine's hum warped in pitch as though reacting to some unseen tension. I tried the radio. Static at first, then a garbled burst of my own voice speaking over the airwaves. Turn, don't turn. My hands clenched the wheel. The third car appeared in the distance, emerging like a shadow materializing from the mist. Then another, and another. Soon, a convoy stretched along the highway, each car identical, each plate mirroring mine. The fog distorted their edges, so they shimmered, half here, half somewhere else. I glanced into my rearview mirror and froze. The reflections were off. Tires on asphalt hummed in double beats. Headlights flickered in ways that didn't match the road. I could see one of the cars in the mirror perfectly aligned with mine, but the driver's face wasn't me. Or maybe it was a slightly different me, older, younger, smiling when I shouldn't have been. My knuckles whitened. I swerved, but the road stayed perfectly straight, stubbornly unyielding, the convoy splitting around me in slow motion. Every detail was exact. Every dent, every sticker, every scuff on the upholstery. I caught glimpses of alternate versions of myself, some staring ahead with vacant eyes, some speaking silently, lips moving without sound. A radio burst cracked across the speakers, loud and urgent. My own voice again, distorted, overlapping. "Keep driving, you're already." Static swallowed the words. I tried to blink it away, and when my eyes opened, one car surged ahead of the line. It pulsed forward through the fog like a living thing, headlights cutting bright, blinding paths across the dark. My pulse raced. My foot pressed harder on the gas. I chased it, weaving through the fog, the tires screaming against wet asphalt. And then it vanished. No mist, no darkness, no light, just emptiness. The hum of my engine and the whisper of the tires on the road. I slowed, heart hammering. The fog seemed thicker now, almost tactile, brushing my cheeks. I glanced into the passenger side window and saw myself. Not a reflection, not a distorted image. Me, sitting in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, eyes wide with the same shock I felt. I stumbled back, breath coming in ragged gasps. Then the most horrifying realization. The steering wheel in front of me moved without my hands. The seat felt warmer than it should. The interior smelled faintly of the coffee I hadn't opened yet. I reached for the door, but the knob was cold, unfamiliar. The tires hummed a low, vibrating resonance through the chassis, almost alive, almost aware. The fog outside seemed to fold in, pressing against the windows, wrapping around me. Through the windshield, the empty road stretched away, perfectly ordinary. But inside I wasn't alone. Or rather, I was no longer the one alone. Another burst of headlights appeared in the mirror, not chasing, not following, but waiting. And for a heartbeat, I realized the truth. The convoy hadn't passed me. It had been pulling me in all along, drawing me towards some version of myself I could not resist, could not outrun. Then the car shuddered, a shift in perception. The hum of the tires flattened into silence. And the last thing I saw before the world blurred and realigned. Headlights cutting the fog, and me, my real self, driving away in the car I had been chasing, leaving behind only the hollow, perfect duplicate of myself sitting in the driver's seat. I was both observer and observed, both chased and chaser, both me and not me, trapped on the same stretch of highway that never ended and never would. The radio whispered again, faint but insistent, over static and breath. "Drive, drive, we're all you." And the fog swallowed everything.